Hey guys, and welcome back. It's JB Twinesiger and Rob here with part 3 of Silent Hill 2 Enhanced Edition.
Spooky!
I love that sound as well.
Yeah, that's
It loaded out of breath. James has been doing the stairs. We're absolutely balling for the ammo, so might even keep that equipped for some of it. I've never been able to read that. It says serum on it.
Yeah.
So I think essentially what we need to do from this point, the last thing, now we've got Maria back, is we need to unlock that door with the 2 rings.
Okay, so we need a ring.
I know where the second one is. It's in a fridge on the first floor, I think. Oh no.
Oh, there's a kitchen there on the right.
Oh no, it's in a big room, like see where it says day room?
Oh, okay.
That I haven't been to on the second floor yet.
Cool.
If I go back to the second floor...
Oh.
That's what I mean. I'm sure they done that on purpose to give you a little extra ooh
spooky.
But yeah, I think this is pretty much the end of the hospital. After this, it's just the historical society, and then it's like the prison and all that stuff. But the prison and the labyrinth is complete chance. It can be really quick to get through, or it can be an absolute nightmare.
Why? Like, is it randomised? Is it like?
Well, the thing is, I try and memorise the way around the labyrinth because it is supposed to be like a maze, and I think I've memorised like the route to take. But I'm sure there's a couple of times I've played it where I've gone the same way, but not got the same result. So I think it is set to be like a fix. Oh, this is the best thing as well. I wanted to hit her when it said punishment.
Lucky, or should I say unlucky challenger today is James. James Sunderland! You ready to play trick or treat? Okay, here's your first question. Merry-go-round, haunted house, roller coaster, Ferris wheel, and teacup. Silent Hill is home to a thrilling amusement park that both children and adults love. The question is, what is the name of this amusement park? 1. Fantasyland. 2. Silent Hill Amusement Park. 3. Lakeside Amusement Park.
And I think on all difficulties, it's always 3, 1, 3, the answers.
Okay.
I don't think they change. This is my favourite delivery of any line in the whole game.
Brother and sister were playing in the road when they were attacked and chopped into pieces with an axe.
I just love
Chopped into pieces with an axe.
It's so over the top.
What a terrible tragedy. What a gruesome end to such innocent lives. What was the name of the murderer who committed this vile act? 1. Walter Sullivan. 2. Scott Fairbanks. 3. Eric Gage. Now for our third and final question. South of the lake is a deserted old neighborhood called South Vale. From there to Pale Vale, the central resort area northwest of the lake, there's only one road you can take. Just one road, no more. The third and final question is, what is the name of that road? 1. Bachman Road. 2. Rindell Street. 3. Nathan Avenue. Well, that's the last of our questions.
Proper getting down.
All figured out? When you know the answers, head to the storeroom on the 3rd floor to collect your prizes. But be careful if you're wrong. Well then, everybody, thanks for tuning in. See you again sometime. Bye-bye.
Sick.
Yeah, so good. And also I remember when I first played it with a friend, I think we played it through together. I was proper quick, get a pen and paper. What question was that? And then we were proper, because I don't think it goes into your memo, so it is just from memory.
Okay, so you have to.
So you have to remember what the thing is.
Being gone past.
I was going to try to, but
So, do you actually get something bad that happens if you get it wrong?
Yeah,
Like,
so basically what happens, if you get it right, you get a load of like weapons and no, you get a load of ammo and health.
Come on. You're
But
supposed to
if
be
you get it wrong, a
brilliant.
gas comes down from the
How's
ceiling
that
that like puts you in the
going?
red.
You're supposed to help.
Oh, okay.
It's just like a spray of like it just hurts you.
Oh, sick. Like, are we gonna go there and do it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
It's well worth it. It's on the same floor of where we exit the hospital, so
Or I keep having a look at her, like,
yeah, seeing if it's
tattoos,
changed.
seeing if it changes. But then, like, I suppose it won't change until she starts being a bit of a knob.
Yeah. Also, as well, like there's like some people say there's like some symbolism and like a lot. There's like a lot of
Oh,
parallels.
there's a spider on one.
So people saying that the copper is like heavy and kind of like a bit no sorry, lead, because it's like a skull and it's like lead and everyone's like, oh, it's a bit heavy, it's a bit weight. Maybe it's like a representation of like Mary, who's a bit of a burden and he's got this kind of weight on his shoulders, and like the copper one's a bit shiny and new, and maybe that's like Maria, and it's like she's a bit
the
of spy. Yeah, yeah.
She's like the Black Widow.
So it's almost like, yeah, they kind of said that there's a lot of parallels of like new and old in this game, where they think that that's what kind of that stands for. It's just there's a few other moments it happens. I will just take her out because it's just like it's the last one we have to deal with.
Here is so
Yeah. So we just need to go up to the third floor now, and we'll go to the storeroom, and then we're at the hospital.
And like again, I'm still amazed at how good this looks. Like,
Yeah, it is really good. There we go. So I won't go in there just yet. Again, I always think it's going to be like Resident Evil, where you just click on it and it does it for you. You have to always go into the menu and do it.
but then you say that, like, I was playing the original 3 last night, and like, it's still. There are still certain things you have to go into your inventory for, and
Yeah.
some things where you click on it, it's just like consistency, guys.
Well, also, I don't know if it's intentional for this game. Again, it might just be overthinking it. But there is a towards like on the lead up towards the end of this game, all the doors you try, when you've got a key in your inventory that works, it just automatically uses it.
Yeah.
But towards the end, the next key we get once we leave, see, like that wasn't there when we first came in,
Oh.
and it's
Spooky.
yeah. So it's 313.
But who put the box there?
And look,
Oh wow! Oh my god, you get so much stuff.
we've got like 5 loads of shotgun shells and like 3. Oh, I'm sure I got more than that.
And you can find out all this information by reading but the memos in the games. Like, it is in the game, or is it
Yeah.
this thing where it just expects you to have read the companion guide that was only released in Tokyo
Yeah,
for
yeah.
3 hours on.
Well, I was going to say, and as much as I try and always memorise the turns of this bit, I always run into a wall or something. And I don't know if this is like Laura because it's like a kid, but it's like I hid it behind the praying woman and stuff. But it says
Yeah.
went out on a day trip, so I don't know if it's like someone from the hospital or something. But yeah, all these doors are locked on the way down.
Okay.
But it's always quite difficult to manoeuvre this last hallway.
Oh, okay, I know.
I don't think I've ever failed it, like I've ever been caught, but I'll always hit a wall and like I always like anticipate the wrong turn. That's well loud. It's not that loud in the HD collection, his footsteps.
He is coming.
Whoa! Jesus, why is he so quick? It's only on normal. Fucking hell.
Oh, he's proper sprinting! Maybe like it's just the frame rate makes it feel like he's moving quicker.
Yeah, I know, but he was proper behind her.
He let her die.
Well, also, that's like part of his punishment. People think that like the reason he keeps seeing Maria die is almost like the town's way of being like, you failed your wife, in a way, and it's almost like the way it's like a kind of a reincarnation of her, and he keeps seeing her get killed in front of him. It's just part of like, I don't know, maybe the town trying to remind him or something. But yeah, she dies here. You see her like on a bed, pretty much just battered when you in the labyrinth, and then you also see her get stabbed another time.
Oh yeah.
And you just keep seeing her get hurt, and it's like proper like.
Well, like there's the bit where she's like, ooh, like Jesus up.
Jesus stuff. Yeah, and I like this music as well.
Well, because like, I suppose this is a thing that sets this game apart from the first one, is that the like demons and monsters in the first one, how I've always seen it,
Yeah.
are manifested by the fact that, or like Alyssa has the like evil like god inside her.
Yeah, yeah. So
But in this, they're supposed to be like manifestations of his
yeah,
like guilt. It's not, or you know, his.
the way I've understood it is essentially the cult's plan was to birth the demon god through Alessa, because she had she was like special because she had like telekinesis and everything. They were going to use her, and then Dahlia tried to do it from home as a kind of like, because I think they were going to wait for her or something. But there's like a cutscene where she's like, "Oh, come on, I just want to use a bit of your power," and she's like, "No, I don't want to."
Oh yeah, when she's like pulling on her.
And then there's a memo you find that says there was a boiler explosion, and people think it's because of her like height and stress and everything. She caused the boiler to explode, which ruined the ceremony, or like put a stall to it, and half the soul was lost. So the body of Alessa was kept alive, hoping that the other half of the soul would return one day. So Dahlia says, "We'll use a magic spell," and that's what calls Cheryl to the town.
Okay.
So when she does return, Cheryl's essentially an astral projection from Alessa. So when she returns and Alessa becomes whole again, because she has the
she's like the other half of her soul. Because of course, when the like half of the like demon soul is in her, the other half of like Alessa's soul gets thrown out.
Yeah.
So that's why when Cheryl comes back, it's like she can be like complete again.
Yeah.
But that also means the demon has the chance to be complete again.
And because she comes back to the town and she becomes whole again, the nightmare, because basically it said that she's tortured internally by the nightmare for 7 years while Cheryl's away.
Yeah.
And then it's only when Cheryl returns to the town and she becomes whole again, the nightmare is then projected involuntarily onto the town, because
it actually manifests.
Yeah.
Only when Cheryl turns up.
Yeah. So basically, as well, when you first meet like Dr. Kaufman and stuff, he says that it's a new phenomenon. He's like this something weird's just started happening here. So it's not like it was going on forever.
Okay.
It's only because Cheryl returned and it's like it's influenced it. But the thing is, the way they say that it kind of works is that the town has a spiritual power from like the native. You know, it was like a spiritual kind of place.
So that's why the cult is kind of based in that place, or why they feel they can do the ceremony there.
And also, because of her ability to kind of spread the nightmare from her mind, because she has like telekinesis and everything, the spiritual power is that extra ingredient that actually manifests the things in real life that make it kind of happen like this in the world.
So it's more than just one thing. There's actually like there's the fact that the town itself has some like history.
So that's what their reason for this being able to manifest James's inner thoughts and everything is, that the town has the ability to kind of bring people's things to life. Yeah, they're the closer. You fight those a lot in Silent Hill 3.
Oh yeah, they're the weird.
Yeah, they're pretty scary, and they proper like if you're in like close knit corridors with them, they proper block up the whole way.
So big, you have to kill them.
Yeah. So that's how they kind of get away with how James's nightmare manifests in this one, is because the spiritual power of the town is kind of making it happen. So it doesn't have to necessarily have Alessa there. it's just that the town can do it. It's just in the first one, it's Alessa's ability that makes it happen in real life. It's that it kind of adds to it. And in the third game, Heather is essentially the baby that's given to Harry at the end of the game.
Yeah, so she's full like Alessa, basically.
Yeah, but she's now, because she's still got the kind of seed of the demon in her. Claudia, who's like a fanatic of the cult, wants to finish what Dahlia started in the first game. So essentially, the whole time she's like trying to nurture the demon in Heather, but Heather has no idea. She's like, who are you? I don't know anything about this. Why are you like after me and all this stuff? But it's
so
because
she still has the nightmares, though.
Yeah, but she's still actually pregnant with the demon. So essentially,
so they didn't remove it from her.
No. So in 3, they're trying to finish the work of the cult in the first game,
and like do the ceremony how it was supposed to be done, I suppose.
Yeah. So
rather than like the slapdash one that her mum did.
Yeah. So essentially, you'll see when you play the third one, like kind of the elements of how the story is continued of the first game. But that's why we were saying yesterday about like a lot of people for some reason accept this as how the mechanics of this town work, and essentially the spiritual power of the town is what manifests a lot of it, regardless of the source or what it's coming from. So that's how they try and get around saying this is why it's happening, that's why it's not happening.
Yeah, because it would be hard to tie this in if it was also just based around Alessa.
Yeah, but also that's how they kind of get away with how the nightmare works in this game. But what I was going to say is, but the cult is still a huge part of that, because without that, there'd be no demon, there'd be no influence on the town, there'd be no kind of... Because this is in the aftermath of 1, so that's why the kind of...
Okay, so this one is set after 1, like...
Yeah.
So, like, okay, because that's what I was about to ask. Is this, like, chronologically before,
well, I'd say
after?
so. I'd say it's after, because obviously the spiritual power's already been tainted by the cult's demon god, so that's why it has such like a negative kind of because it's not necessarily that the spiritual power's evil, it's because it's the cult's influence on it which has caused it to turn out like this.
Okay, so kind of like the fact that it was nearly born here and all the stuff is like now like tainted.
Yeah.
They're kind of like, I mean, to compare it to like your favourite show, like Twin Peaks, it's kind of like the Black Lodge has taken over rather than the White Lodge.
Because a lot of what this, Twin Peaks and like a lot of David Lynch's work was a big influence on Silent Hill, and they're basically saying that the power of the town itself, it's just host to this power.
Yeah.
And it's only through kind of the negative force of Bob that stuff seems to kind of happen in the Black Lodge and all that stuff. So it's a similar thing here. It's not necessarily the town itself is evil. It's because of its involvement with the cult and Alessa that it's turned out the way it has.
So there's a similar thing with like how the Red Room is basically like the neutral area of that. It's like you go there and kind of, so in theory Silent Hill, like, or like let's say before all of these events happen, is a kind of neutral zone. It's only when things start to get put into motion that it starts to go more to an evil way. But like, let's say the Native Americans who supposedly lived here before, they probably used it in a more like positive way.
But also it's also, they say that because a lot of people are like, how did James and Mary have a vacation here if there's no people, if it's like this and stuff? But a lot of people say basically that happened before the first game. Like they came here on a vacation when it was still a tourist spot, because there's pamphlets you find that say it was a very touristy kind of thing. It was like a relaxing kind of town. But then a series of mysterious boating accidents on Toluca Lake tainted the town's reputation and essentially destroyed its economy, making it be unlivable. Like you just couldn't live there because everything was shutting down.
So that was probably like the cult's influence maybe on this bit, like as they were ramping things up or they were doing whatever.
And also because of because a lot of people are like, well, how did James and Mary go there if it was like the way it is. But it happened before 1 when it was still like a normal town, and it's basically because she says like, you promised you'd take me there again but you never did. That's essentially saying that it took place way before the events of 1, and now he's gone back there after the events of 1.
Well, because so I mean you can kind of work out how long ago it was, because she was ill for 3 years. Yeah.
Well, no, it's that he thinks she died 3 years ago, but she was ill for an unknown amount of time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, because it ties into the ending, but we're saying spoilers anyway. But
Yeah,
really, but the major thing that I always got is that she didn't actually die 3 years ago. She died like proper recently.
Oh yeah, no, it could even be like days ago. It's just that he's created this separate kind of reality for himself where he doesn't want to accept that. So he's made this whole thing up in his head where like 3 years have passed.
See, I always read it as like he saw her death as soon as he found out she was ill. So she died like 3 years ago. Is like in theory that like their relationship died.
Oh, okay.
3 years ago, because that was when it all changed.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I get what you mean, but it's not specified. There's a lot of stuff.
I mean,
left
that's
out,
my opinion, rather than.
But there are people that just say like, you know, it could have been, you know, a week ago that it happened, but he's created this whole other. A really big influence for this as well is a David Lynch film called Lost Highway, which is almost an identical plot, even involving like finding out what you've really done through videotapes and all this stuff. And essentially it's like the guy's wife, he just wakes up and she's been murdered. And then he goes to prison for it, he gets blamed for it, and he's like, it wasn't me, why would I do that, and everything. And then essentially what happens is whilst he's in prison he goes through this weird transformation and it turns into a different actor. And he gets released. They're like, this isn't the guy, this isn't the prisoner or whatever. And he goes through this whole sequence where he meets another woman who looks just like his wife. It's played by the same actress, exactly like the whole thing with Mary and Maria is in it. And she's like a more sexy, seductive kind of version of his wife, who he wasn't happy with. Oh, I was going to say, that would have been good if I dodged that. And look, and I think also, this is like a little thing I was saying. Here, the key, it's just called Old Bronze Key. Okay. And there's no option to examine it. Oh. So I think as the game's getting more and more on and James is like slipping more and more into a bit of a really bad mental state, it's like it's giving you less and less clues to be like, oh, this is for this door. Yeah. It's leaving it proper open to just being like, well, it could be this. Oh, it was that. And I really love the Historical Society. When I was, I've said it on my other Let's Play, but when I was living in Epsom, there was like a kind of social club, like pub thing, opposite the road from me that looked like the entrance to this place. Oh. And I always think when I go in, and it's like such a sick painting here, boy. Yeah. Oh. And that's what I was saying about the Francis Bacon influence with the cages around the.
Well, and like not even just the like cages, even like the blurriness, like the smeared kind of like that.
That's like a direct painting from Masahiro Ito. Yeah, it's really cool. And like you get a little bit of like the town's history if you read some of like the things in the next room as well. So like essentially you get, I love that foghorn as well. So like okay. Brookhaven Hospital, 1880. The hospital was built in response to a great plague that followed a wave of immigration to this area. It was originally a little more than a shack, but it gradually grew and grew. A photo of the director of the old Brookhaven Hospital. It looks like he was a famous person in town. There's a photo of a deep hole here. What could this be? Ooh. But then, when you're in like the labyrinth and like the what do you call it? And like, look, this is where you get that obsidian goblet if you do the rebirth ending. And I always think this is like proper fucked up. It's like a proper deep thing, and just that sound, and it just goes up. And that's like one of my most like biggest fears.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, in terms of like, I hate the idea of going really deep down, like underground,
Okay, so like the movie The Descent or something.
Yeah,
Your worst nightmare.
Well, I'm quite claustrophobic anyway, but just the idea of like going down a massive staircase just leading down, like it's like what's the thing in Paris with like the catacombs and you're like hundreds of feet up, like that would I wouldn't be able to go down there.
Oh, that's like I would love to go and see that though. That's
yeah, and when you go in here, there's so many kind of like holes you have to jump down, and again it's like proper. It might just be like symbolic of like he's having to kind of like search himself and go really deep down into his like subconscious to kind of. But there's all these like leaps of faith where it's like there's just a massive hole in the ground, and it's like, will you jump down this hole? And it gives you the option to say no, but you can't not. Like to progress, you have to. So it says, oh, will you jump down? You can say no, but you have to jump down. But it proper makes you doubt yourself and be like, well, will I like ruin the game if I jump down it? Am I supposed to go here yet? And you have to, but again, it's like a proper mind trick that they're like playing on you to be like, you sure you want to do this?
So I mean, like, is this maybe supposed to be a metaphor for James going deeper into his like psyche, or deeper into his?
Yeah, because I don't think this exists. Like there most likely isn't this under the Historical Society. I think the town is literally manifesting all this.
Yeah. Because
of James's like. Let's see if I can find it straight away. There we go. It's almost like the town's manifesting it to kind of be a representation of James like being lost and kind of like really like trapped, because this whole section is like. It's like a representative of like his mind, and like that he's kind of stuck in this like, you know, these like never-ending kind of corridors that are like a prison to him and stuff. And it's kind of like until he faces the truth of what he's done, he won't ever be able to leave.
Yeah, so we all live with our like demons. You know? Like we all live with like the things we should have done, and the like
exactly.
The people we shouldn't have.
And I think the actual like set pieces, buildings, rooms, paint, like everything's like a subtle nod to like little thing. And then once you know about his, you know, what he's done, and you play it again, it's like, oh, I can kind of see why that's that. And also, this is really cool. When you go to leave, the battery dies here, and it's like, what the fuck? And then that battery you pick up in the hospital, when you put it back on, there's all these fucking bugs in it.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like, and this is quite cool. This is randomised every time.
Okay.
So different keys will light up, and you have to just keep trying codes until you get it right.
That involve those three numbers, basically.
Yeah. Oh.
213. Or 123. Or 321.
But the thing is, as well, it's like these can proper do some so you're like proper panicking to be like, quick, get back on this.
Well, just 321.
There we go.
It's like the most simple answer.
And look, and like this is when it first starts getting proper. So that's like upside down. You can see the light.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like.
So the only thing I don't understand then is where does he receive the letter from Mary?
So it's not. There's nothing on it. So actually, when you've watched the videotape, if you examine the letter of Mary, it's a blank bit of paper.
Oh, okay.
So essentially, it's the town's way of calling him there.
Yeah.
Because when you meet Eddie and Angela, they've both been brought there, but they don't know why they're there. It's almost like the town is kind of luring them in to then kind of face themselves. Because when you first meet Eddie, he's like, I'm not even from this town, I'm just... And then he gets cut off. And then Angela's like, I'm looking for my brother and mum, and I don't know why I think they're here.
And then like Laura, because like supposedly like there's something about adoption, like they were planning to adopt a child or something, or
yeah.
she was gonna...
When you meet Laura in the hotel,
tell me what happened.
You get a letter from Mary saying, you know, if things worked out better, me and James were hoping to adopt you, because they met in the hospital a year ago. But we'll see that when we get the letter.
Yeah.
Like that other one. Just for that, you killed him?
I mean, that's kind of the
You
sad
forgot.
thing.
Eddie, you can't just kill someone because of the way they looked at you.
Oh yeah? Why not? Till now,
Oh, and I don't know if you can tell, but if you look at his eyes never really look directly at you. They're always like slightly off,
Yeah.
centered and stuff. And the guy who done the characters, I can't remember what his name is. They were saying that he'd done that purposefully to kind of suggest that he's not kind of all there.
Anyway, I gotta run.
You're going out there alone?
Yeah.
Eddie?
Because they could have, like, I mean, like, for like these sequels, rather
Yeah.
than just trying to rinse and repeat the same ideas.
Yeah.
A cooler thing would have been to like try to tide, but the idea that the town calls these people here to like feed off their like guilt or hate
yeah.
or sadness, and that basically like that god or whatever is like
That's what's giving it its power.
yeah,
or something,
it gains strength from kind of again more like a kind of like a Twin Peaks or influence there.
Yeah.
Where like Bob lives off the fear.
Yeah.
Like-
Like the Garmin Bozier and everything. It's like the pain and sorrow. That's what they like thrive off.
And that would make and then that would obviously make a way to tie this in to like the broader idea rather than just randomly but the town decides to call you here. Like,
yeah. But again, there's no series without the cult and its influence and everything. So that is, and like this is cool. There's like the invisible prisoner. So he's like looking up at it.
Oh yeah.
But you can't see it, but if you shoot it, listen. But you can kill it.
Oh yeah.
You see it
yeah,
like
there
fall?
you go. Yeah. Or like, okay, I heard you hit it. Man. Oh yeah, look, but there's blood stains.
And that's the thing that's saying ritual as well. So this is where we get like the wax doll, which is quite cool. There's a really like cool little intuitive puzzle
yeah,
here.
so that is like completely linked to like the cult there because you have like the symbol of Samael.
Yeah, so there's definitely like references to it and everything, but it's like it's still trying to do its own side thing. But there's still history of the town being brought up to be like, this is why this affects this. That's why it happened. But yeah, this game couldn't exist without the events of the first game.
Yeah.
And there's a nice, cool little. And like, if you hear the thing here, in a minute, there's like a voice that says ritual, and it just like whispers it.
Oh yeah, that's
And people think that look, there's another one of those things.
so cool.
It can't hurt you.
Yeah, it's just there.
And you can never see it, but it's just a little extra little bit of a mind, like, what the fuck's that? And look, this is cool. When you get to leave, and you're like, what? And then like the fourth time it opens, and it's like, you're like, again, it's that whole thing of like really making the player doubt themselves and being like, oh shit, have I done something wrong? Have I ruined the game? Whatever.
I mean, like, I suppose because like I'm happy for like, especially with horror, for them not to explain everything.
Yeah,
I think like, especially with like psychological horror, like you need a certain level of like.
This is cool as well. Just quickly. And there's it's like there's loads of cool little like nuanced sound effects that happen that are like completely like missable or random, and it's just like unless you kind of like know where to look for it and stuff, you could play the game a load of times and never hear it once, and then like you could play it like years later and it will happen once and you're like, has that always done that? This is where you get the rifle as well. Oh yeah, but you're saying about the
Yeah, so like I kind of welcome a certain amount of like ambiguousness
Yeah.
in like kind of horror games and like horror movies. I think the problem I have with the trend is set in with the or later like non-team Silent games is that it kind of turns Silent Hill into like the dude from Saw. Like it's trying
especially
to,
like Homecoming. That's that people compare that directly to Saw.
yeah, but it's
Or
like
Hostel.
but it's like this town is trying to make everyone pay for their sins and go through hell.
Yeah.
And if they kind of can or make it through and do the right choice, it sets them free.
Yeah.
And I think it works really well in just this self-org like
Contained.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
and because of course but the ending like can change. It's not always a nice ending.
Yeah.
But it's as soon as you do that more than like once.
Yeah.
It then kind of completely changes what this town is.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like you can't overly rely on keep using that trait of like this is what Silent Hill is, what 2 is.
Yeah.
And it's like that's what a lot of the like Western developers just went to because they probably saw it as like I didn't really get a lot of the cult elements. I didn't really get the story, so I don't want to try and make my own thing of that or continue the story of that. I kind of like the story of 2, and because I'm in charge of the series now, I just want it to be just about what 2 is about.
Yeah.
But the overarching story about the spiritual power of the town, the cult's influence, a lesser sacrifice, the demon inside Heather, Harry's like rescue of his daughter, like a lot of like none of this could happen without any of that in the first place. But it's almost like people can't be bothered with a cult, and they're just like, I'll just make it like 2. That'll be good enough. People don't care. People don't want to see the cult and all that. But you know, if you really kind of look into the overall story of it all, you know, as simple, more simple as this one is to follow, the more interesting story and the darker story is in 1 and 3. And it's set up really well in 1, and 3 is like the payoff of this story of 1. So it's like,
or is this a boss?
No. So this is just essentially like a cool little thing, and that's like people also think that's like why James sees Pyramid Head as that, because the executioners used to wear these robes where they had like hoods that were like triangles. So also there's a lot of representation here of like Eddie, Angela, and James. So people think that like the seductress is like, oh no, the seductress could be Maria.
Yeah.
The gluttonous pig is Eddie because of his like weight and everything, and the oppressor is possibly like James, or I don't know. But yeah, there's loads of like, especially when you get to the hotel, there's like there's 3 music boxes you need to find, and they're directly linked to Angela, James, and Eddie in the different ways, like what they represent. Again, I've never seen the details on these tablets. I've never actually seen like the actual images on them. And look, there's a cool little noise there of like the hangman. You can go up there and see like the noose and stuff. It's quite cool. But this is how you get the 3rd bit of the puzzle we need. And again, this is like a proper intuitive like puzzle.
Yeah.
Because again, I probably was lost in this area for so long when I first played it, and then like I don't know if I even probably figured it out. I probably like looked it up in a, you know, and used to like look at like magazines. And it's like, yeah, here's to get past this bit or whatever. Because I remember doing that, like not. I remember doing that in like newsagents, like with no shame whatsoever. I'd go in a newsagent with like a pen and paper, and I'd like look in the back where the cheat codes were. And I'd like just write them down on a bit of paper and be like, "Oh, that's how you do it. Let's go." And I wouldn't buy the magazine, and they'd all be like, "Are you gonna buy that?" Or what?
No, just writing down 3 cheats.
Oh, it's right up there. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think what would have probably served the series more
Yeah.
is for them to have just gone in and, like, as much as 4 gets a lot of hate, at least it tried something a bit like
and
different.
And 4's heavily involved with the cult's ritual and trying to like all the stuff with Valtiel and like again, but it's like not a lot of people look into that. So yeah, look, this is cool. So it's like there's a cover on the ground, but I can't open it. There's one depression left where there was probably once a handle, and it doesn't tell you anything more. And it's like proper in depth. You have to melt the wax doll with the lighter, and then you set the horseshoe in it once it hardens, and you create a handle.
Yeah, that is like. And there's no hint to that. Like, there's no note or anything.
Well, that's the thing. I think once you reach this point in the game is considerably less helpful in hints. It doesn't tell you anything. Like in the beginning, there might be like, you know, this key is for this, that room is this, and it's a bit more straightforward. The further you get into the game, it's more and more unforgiving, and it's just like more and more messed up. And like, there's like a morgue with all the. Again, I don't know what's going on with the feet. Reminds me of the morgue in is it Resident Evil 2, where you go in and they all come. You go around the back to get the item, and then they all start coming out of the shelves and that. And look, you just keep having to jump down these holes. It's just like.
But yeah, like I feel they could have evolved more the games with like each one changing up kind of.
But the thing is, the people who know what they set out to create were finished with it by 3. They saw 3 because they set up this story in 1.
Yeah.
2 was like a bit of a departure. 3 kind of went back to the first game and been like, this is the resolve, and that's it over now. That's a nightmare over there. But then, again, the 4th game didn't actually initially start out as a Silent Hill game. It was supposed to be its own separate thing, just called The Room.
And then they were like, fuck.
And then they were like, let's add the Silent Hill title. So I don't think the original intention by any of the actual creators was that it was meant to go past the 3rd game. Like, the 3rd game to them was like, that's the end of all of Silent Hill.
Yeah,
but then
told the story.
But then everyone else was like, let's continue it. And like, that's where it starts going askew, because they start, people that aren't involved or don't know the original intent.
They're trying to force,
and that's what messes it up. But if you just ignore most anything past 4,
vibrating controller,
you're kind of like, that. Yeah, that is quite strong. My controller doesn't vibrate that much. But yeah, and again, so I just see one to 3 is like its own set kind of series, and after 3, that's the end of it. I like 4, but I can just I just ignore that the Star Wars prequels exist. And most like the Disney sequel. Like I'm just happy to go. It's episodes 4, 5, and 6, and that's it. There's nothing else.
I mean, it's kind of a bit like me with the Resident Evil games. Like, I can recognise the first 3, and then I can still enjoy the others.
Yeah.
But I just have to be like, this isn't like connected to those 3 games.
Yeah.
They're like a separate thing that I love, and then Resident Evil 4 is a fun game.
Yeah. But that's what I mean. You can kind of like still give separate entries their own like props.
Yeah.
But
it's just as soon as you put them under the same light as like
that's when it starts having issues. And again, this is a cool puzzle. I don't know if you remember this, but like if you go in here, the doors. Where is it? The doors on like the ceiling or something.
Okay.
And essentially, every time you spin this,
it changes.
The room imitates.
Oh, look at that! In the first try, what a boss!
Oh yeah, and this is where we meet up with Maria. And this is
show us your tattoo, love.
And this is essentially where she's back and forth in between Maria, 2 characters.
I thought that thing killed you.
And it's like 1 minute she's Mary, 1 minute she's Maria, and then she's back to Mary.
Look how good that cutscene looks. That's like
that thing. It stabbed you. There was blood everywhere.
Stabbed me? What do you mean?
I mean, how would you feel about like a remake, say, of this game? Not even like the first one. How would you feel if they remade this?
Don't you remember?
Like, is this something that you would be like, oh, cool? Or would it be like,
Not
why?
really.
Why are you
Not
remaking
really.
this?
I mean, the
I
fact
got
that people
separated
still
from
love this 20 years on
Yeah.
and still gravitate towards this entry over many others,
Yes.
I mean, that says enough in terms of that you don't need to. Same with 4. Like, everyone's going, when's Resident Evil 4 remake coming out?
Yeah, it's
I
disgusting.
mean, as sure as stuff can be improved, I guess.
Just graphically, though, isn't it?
Oh,
That's
just
what you're really
graphically.
doing
But
is just putting a new, like,
You say
Oh,
you
kind
take
of
everything.
lick of, like, paint over
Yeah.
it. And then, of course, you're going to change things that,
Yeah.
like, people love so much about it. I mean, like,
but
both
with-
of the most recent
know
Resident
about
Evil
that.
remakes
yeah.
either or removed
Maria?
stuff or added stuff that
And
or
after
upset
Mary.
people.
Yeah.
You know, it was like,
Well, that's the thing.
So,
But I
you're
think
Maria.
with Resident Evil 4 being so, what do you
I
call it?
am. If you want
So
me to be.
kind of still accessible on like
Yeah.
so many
Not
platforms.
from you,
And the HD version still look great and it still plays fine.
and there's a mod that also improves that
Doesn't
HD
matter. Yeah,
version,
exactly.
so it looks so good.
So I don't think there's need.
I'm
If anything
infinite.
needs the treatment, it's Code Veronica
See?
because that looks really bad, and it's like a lot of people don't know that game.
Yeah, well, they're
So-
scared of it. It's like this, like bastard, like,
We might see if it's changed.
don't
No.
know.
Oh no.
but it's like some bastard, like, child that's locked in the attic in chains that no one dare play. Like, don't play Code Veronica because it's infamous for like being hard. Because there's certain
Yeah.
like points if you haven't like saved enough ammo, you just can't get any further. You're stuck. But there are like die-hard fans of that game that
Yeah.
say like it's the best of the original.
Well, it's the continuation of the story of 2 because it's Claire's follow up from 2, isn't it?
Yeah.
So like, but I read that it was something to do with a deal with Capcom where they signed a contract that said only PlayStation are exclusively getting just numbered entries
Yeah.
and anything on separate consoles because it was a Dreamcast exclusive, wasn't it? At first, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was. And then
That's the reason they couldn't call that Resident Evil 3. Is
Yeah.
because it was going to a Sega console. Otherwise, that would have essentially been Resident Evil 3.
yeah.
So yeah,
But then I mean, like, again with all of those games, it's like such a like twisted little thing where like they did the N64 version of Resident Evil 2,
yeah,
and then they wanted them to make another game, and then they ended up making a remake.
but that's what I was
Zero.
thinking in terms of like a game that actually deserves the treatment of a remake because
Oh, the first.
you
one.
can see past it. Oh no, I was going to say like the first. Oh, what you mean Silent Hill? Or
Yeah,
Resident
the
Evil?
first like.
Oh no, that
Silent Hill
definitely
would
needs it.
be
But
a proper good
I
remake.
thought we were still on the Resident Evil remake. Well, I was going to say, everyone's saying about 4 being remade. It's like 4's still pretty playable, and it looks good still. And it's like, if anything looks bad and plays a bit clunky in that, it's Code Veronica. That needs it 100%. 4 doesn't. 4 you can still happily play and get on with.
And it's a story that, and because like it's a game, a lot of like people either they either missed
Yeah.
because it was released on smaller like consoles, like the Dreamcast and the like Game Cube
Yeah, yeah.
didn't really sell. Or kind of later on there was like a PlayStation 3 version and like an Xbox.
Yeah. Well, that's also what I was gonna say is that like also it would probably introduce that entry to more people because as I said, a lot of people didn't play it, so it would be a reason for everyone to experience that chapter of the Resident Evil series,
Hell yeah.
and then it might get the original more attention because it will be like, oh, that was cool. I'll go back and see what that one was like or something. But yeah, that Code Veronica definitely. But I'd be well up for 1 of this being remade.
Yeah.
But
Same here.
I think 2 is still good enough as is. Same
Because-
with 3.
But the sad thing is, I think if they were to remake one, they would go for the one that they feel would earn them the most like cash, and I think it would be this one. Because
Yeah.
everyone loves Silent Hill too, so we'll make that one. Even though, like,
but 1, I think 1 would really make a good remake. But
oh yeah,
the annoying thing would be as well is, as you say, with a lot of these companies doing the remakes, is they'd want to do their own spin on it or change stuff. So like, I'd only be accepting of a Silent Hill 1 remake if it didn't change a single thing about the story.
Yeah.
Like, graphically, you can do what you want. You can make the enemy design slightly, maybe a bit better looking. You can update the gameplay and all that. But the second you start actually changing the intent and outcome of the story, that's when it starts getting bad. Like, I don't want that.
I mean, that's kind of what, like, I suppose the most recent Resident Evil or remakes did well, was as much as they might have, like, mixed up areas and removed enemies and put new ones in and stuff, they at least kind of hit the story beats. So, and 3, which is considered, like, the not so great.
Also, what I'll do, because we'll finish it in a minute, because we're coming out to now. This is the newspaper just before you meet Angela that hints that she killed her father, and she's on the run in Silent Hill. That's why she's got that bloody knife.
Okay.
So look, it's stained with something that looks like blood and is partially illegible. The the body of a man later identified as Thomas Orozco, that's her surname, lumberjack, age 39, was discovered in the so-and-so lying face. I don't know. The probable cause of death is multiple stab wounds to the front of the neck and the left side of the torso by a sharp-edged weapon. The estimated time of death was somewhere between 11 and 12:30 midnight. Due to signs of struggle in the room and the lack of a murder weapon, police are conversing this as a homicide and have opened a murder investigation. Furthermore, given the fact that the cash in the room was untouched, Mr. Orozco had a history of drunkenness and violence. That's again hinting that he used to rape and abuse her and stuff. The police suspect that it was not a robbery or a crime of obsession or something. And in the next room you meet Angela and you see the abstract daddy, which is like a bit dark.
Okay, so shall we call it an episode here?
Yeah, because I think we're nearly an hour in. So yeah, that was part 3. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll be back very soon for part 4. Thanks for watching.
Bye bye.